Hi, Megyn. Thank you for coming.
Thanks
it's so
for having
great.
me.
Cheers.
Because-
5 years.
Yeah,
Oh,
cheers.
my
This
gosh,
is the
thanks.
5 years. That's how we start. We're going to start
Thank
talking
you.
about 5 years.
We sip it, right? We sip it.
You do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, might as well.
I'm going to sip it. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, that's a naughty little one,
God.
isn't it?
Single malt. Not like that
That's
other crap.
amazing.
Thanks. It's quite a welcome.
Okay. Is it? Are you cool if I take my shirt off? Can we get?
Always starts this.
Can we text Doug about this? Is he cool with
It is
this?
nickel.
Wait, by the way, when he saw, he'd be like, "No, I'm actually fine with that. That body is totally all right." Yeah.
Okay.
Did I tell you Doug's Scottish family motto? It was the funniest thing. So they went over to Scotland, the whole clan, like their family, to like take their mom, and they saw old family gravestones, and they found out that they had a family motto like with a clan that they were associated with, and it was "Non timeo sed cavio." I'm like, what's that? It sounds cool, and it means be fearless but cautious.
That's
actually
yeah.
great advice.
We know of new methods of attack. The Trojan horse, the fifth column.
Greetings and welcome back to another exciting installment of the Fifth Column podcast. This is your weekly rhetorical assault on the news cycle, the people that make it, occasionally ourselves. I'm Kmele Foster. I'm delighted to be here. I'm with Matt Welch and Michael Moynihan, and I have a sense that this is going to be a good one. That's just
Well,
that's
this
my
is
feeling.
our first video one.
Official
Yes, the
video.
first
Officially, we've
official
been doing
video.
them for
Yeah,
subscribers.
we're out of
and if you
previews.
don't subscribe, you're
Still on a somewhat temporary set, but I think it's
Yeah.
great. I think
Yeah.
it looks great.
It looks
I also
Magnificent.
and we
Yeah,
have great
did you hear
company.
that?
We have great
have-
company.
We have great looking.
Was that
Our
a lady?
first
We allowed
guest,
ladies?
not just a lady,
Yeah.
the lady
Yeah.
of the hour, Miss Megyn Kelly, joining us in the studio
Megyn
Thanks
for
Kelly.
our
for having
very
me.
first
Yeah,
installment
thank you.
of the Fifth Column. live in
Honored to
person.
be the inaugural,
Made the trek
is
to
great.
our enclave in Soho. It used to be Midtown.
which I literally would not do for anyone else.
Thank
Really?
you.
I was like, they want me to go to the city on a weekday afternoon?
Like
all the way down
Connecticut. Did you?
But
you
I
did-
managed to work in a Botox appointment after
Are
this.
you
so we're all
serious?
in it together.
go.
Yeah.
Can I come with you?
Yeah.
We shoot like a thing that's for like.
It's not an
actually-
anti-hangover.
You know, that should
Botox
be
is
like
different.
a subscriber thing, me getting Botox with Megyn. And then she comes out looking great, and I come out looking all
I'm sorry,
deranged.
but I saw far too much movement of my eyebrows. I was like, Abby!
No, they would give him the BBL by mistake, which would be just
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Cut
The
the two
Botox, you've been doing that for a while?
Of course.
Really?
Yes, I'm 54 years old. I've been doing it for a long while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause that-
Those are the two things I do. I do Botox, and twice a year I get a laser procedure called the Fraxel. And it does everything.
Okay. I have somebody that I know that does the Fraxel.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's incredibly expensive. Like burn your face.
No,
Oh,
it
okay.
doesn't hurt.
It does, but
It is
it's,
expensive. It's like
but she was like
$2,500.
peeling for weeks.
No, it's 1 week. It's
Oh,
not
she
even.
got it under the bridge in Queens, so maybe a different.
Okay. No.
This guy was like, "I'm going with a Fraxel."
It's 1 week, and you don't even have to have any
Pronounce it.
downtime. I don't even miss a show when you like the first day you're just a
Really?
little sunburned, a little swollen. You don't look like your best.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of a little sandpapery for the next 5 days, and within 6 days, baby's bottom
Yeah.
all
Wow.
over your face.
See, look,
Matt needs
everybody
that.
wants to talk about Trump and politics. We get you on the show, and we want to talk about the beauty regimen. because
I'm
it's
telling you,
important.
It's important.
Men should have it too because
I
it
agree.
takes off skin cancer. Like it's a maintenance to prevent all
Camille
sorts of
does
bad
some
things.
peels and
No, I
and
just
stuff.
get rid of the grays at some regular interval. Yeah, I bring the youthful energy to the podcast. It'd be very weird if I had shocks of gray hair everywhere.
Yeah, you can't be the old guy.
Does anyone
yeah,
notice
not
that I
everyone
stopped giving a shit about 30 years ago?
Everyone
Kind of.
They
Yeah, kind
mention
of.
it in the comments
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, I had
Even in
someone-
audio, which is
I had
weird.
someone in my life who shall remain nameless, who last night said to me, "You have to stop cutting your own hair." And I was like, "Why? What shit? Like, what do you? Like,
Do you?
What do you think I am? Like, sometimes.
It looks
I can
nice
always
now.
tell the
Couple of
difference.
that's my own cut.
Yeah.
It's my own cut.
It's been you've had highs and lows. I like
I got
this one.
highs and lows. Megyn. Can we do a super cut of our appearances in Megyn's show over the past 30
Oh
years?
my god, it's a lot
When
of
we were like
lows.
young and because that. Well, let's start there.
not
on the
30, not 30 years. 5
5
years.
years.
Feels like 30.
It feels like 30. So
5-year
you had a
anniversary.
5-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I know. Can you believe it?
I mean, actually, it's an interesting journey, right? You're
Very.
at Fox, you leave Fox under circumstances. You go to NBC, you leave NBC under
Fox didn't
circumstances.
have too much circumstances, but
Listen.
NBC had circumstances. Like
Yeah.
I could have stayed at Fox.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I could not have stayed at NBC.
Okay.
You were involved with some
Yeah, there was drama.
contentions at first.
Yeah.
There's some
So
drama.
there's some drama.
There was drama.
But
Megyn,
if
can you do the twirl for us?
no, wow,
We just
Wow.
move the chair around.
Too
for it.
If you can look at it just in the right angle and
Yeah.
exclude my C-section scars, you're going to find it really hot. Yeah.
But I mean, like at that time, like projecting forward 5 years later, who will the most consequential people be in media broadly?
Yeah.
Not just in like political media, but in media broadly. I looked at the charts today, the Apple podcast charts, and you are in the top 10 and have been reliably for a very long time.
Very long time.
Like, how does that feel? How does that happen? Give us the secret.
I don't really care about that. I have to say, like, it's nice to be successful because you want to keep doing it. That's really how I see it. But I see it the same way today as I saw it 5 years ago, which is like, just keep rowing. Just keep rowing. Because if you go by like downloads and followers and all that, your fortunes rise and they fall like the haircut.
Yeah.
And so, your
This
ego.
is a high, by the way. Just so you know. Let's just be clear
This is
about
high.
that. Yeah.
Your ego can't sustain if you're too tied to like the daily numbers, right? But I always felt like the mission was just truth. Just try to stay to the truth, tell the actual facts, and then you can offer analysis on top of that, and the audience will come. Over time, they'll come. And they did. I mean, that's proven true for me in every job I've ever had. Even that NBC show, that dog of a show, was getting better in the ratings when things fell apart. But over time, I feel like people will get it. If you're a truth teller, they'll figure it out.
Was that a dog of a show? You say a dog of a show, but was that because it wasn't you? You were doing an impression of what Megyn at NBC should be? Because it's very different from the Mock show. It's very, very different from this show. So like that kind of interregnum there, like how do you think of that show as... Was that like my entry into the mainstream? They loved you because of how you questioned Donald Trump.
Yes,
right? That was
100%.
100% why.
Yes.
And then you were a bit of a wild card when you're in there and said, oh shit, this woman actually has opinions.
You're right.
But you were somewhere in between, being an NBC person and being a Megyn Kelly.
Yeah,
right?
they were like, oh my God, it's attacking Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
Why is it doing that? It's defending Brett Kavanaugh. Well, let's get this thing out of here. I look back on that year. The show was really on the air for a year. And I feel like I was temporarily insane. You know what I mean? I feel like I was not actually insane, but I just feel like it wasn't me in so many ways. And the reason I got there is because I had such a rough couple of years leading up to my decision to leave Fox that by the time I left, I thought pulling the plug on politics. Like, I'm just not going to do politics. Yeah. I'm going to be more of an Oprah character. Don't get me started on Oprah because I see her so differently now. But I'm going to be more of an Oprah type character who's just talking about lifestyle and ways to like do better in life and enrich your life outside of politics.
Morning show's different, right?
Well, I just wasn't even thinking morning show, which is notably frivolous. And I never thought of myself as a frivolous person. I thought this was going to be more substantive conversations about what matters. And I was very much of the opinion that politics
didn't matter. Sure. It shouldn't matter anyways.
And I just found it so toxic. I was like, I got to get away from that. That's all I know. So NBC, like an idiot, I thought it would be like a kinder, gentler place to go. I wouldn't do politics. Sometimes I'd go on Dateline, which I loved, and I loved crime. And I was just so wrong, so wrong. And then when the show didn't do well, then they started to add more frivolity to my hour, like from the earlier Today Show. And that was really off-brand for me. But those are the segments that rated the highest. So they were like, please do more fashion shows. And I was like, oh, God, like you'll do what they want you to because you're trying to save the show and they're paying you all this money. But it just got like the gulf between who I am and what the show was just grew and grew and grew to the point where then it started to do better. And then it all ended, as you know why it ended. So it was just, the whole thing was tumultuous.
But you walked away with the money, which is great.
Well, I got the money, but I had to make them give me the money.
Yeah.
I mean, those fuckers didn't want to give me a one dime.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about this. It's probably all I'm allowed to say.
There's no cameras
I
here.
will
We're good.
say that you can't see this. My daughter is here off camera.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
But I remember I told her about this. I said that she got this money for not working. And I remember her saying like, why? And I was like, to make you go away. Sometimes they pay you a lot of money.
Here's the legal
That was my
reason.
fatherly advice.
Because
Annoy them
owed it
until
to me.
annoy
go.
Yeah,
well, that too, right? I would have much rather worked every day of that contract for the dough. But when somebody unfairly terminates you or cuts you loose, when they have no grounds, the law says they have to make good on your deal. That's a general legal statement, nothing about my particular circumstances.
But that was entirely political. The reason, it wasn't because of the performance of the show, it was because of who you were, right?
I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, so
I haven't signed any NDAs in my life except for one, and I can't tell you what circumstance under which I signed that, but you can just draw your own conclusions about why I can't talk about
an NDA
it.
for $60, much like $60 million. So I'm just saying.
And have.
Yeah.
What was the kind of discussions up into launching the new Megyn Kelly thing? Like, who did you talk to? Who said podcasts, indie media, do it yourself in your house? Like,
it was totally Ben Shapiro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love him. I've loved him for years. He used to come on my show when nobody knew who he was. I helped make Ben Shapiro. He would tell you that right now.
Yo.
And when I was sitting on my couch, I think he felt sorry for me and he wanted me to get back out there. And like a good dear friend, he called me up and he's like, MK, you got to do what I'm doing. This is like a real lane. You don't have to sit on your couch. You don't have to work for the man. And I was like, Ben, you're different. Like you give your opinions all the time. I don't really do that. He's like, just fly out here to California and take a look. So I did. I flew out to California to look at the Daily Wire just as a friend. And he showed me what they were doing. It was a huge operation.
You're already crushing it then.
He was totally. And I was like, you know what? I can do that. This actually does fire me up. This is the first thing I've seen that makes me want to get off the couch.
So when you said something there, is that I don't do opinions really.
Right.
I play it down the middle. You did that at Fox, less political even at NBC. And Matt and we were having lunch today. And I remembered our earliest appearances on your show. And you would always say these things starting like, we just call it like we see it. We're not here for any party or clique. We just did it. Do you feel that you became more political, much more opinionated over the course, and again, that's not a negative thing, over the course of time, and it's a more political show now than it was 5 years ago?
Yes, 100%.
Much.
Yeah.
How
much
and why?
more.
What happened?
Well,
2020
I
happened.
wasn't in the business of offering my opinion, so I wasn't used to it. So when I first launched the show, I was like, I don't offer opinions. I just know how to bring them out of other people.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
And then just covering the news every day for 2 hours live, like you kind of can't stop yourself. It's like stuff was so outrageous. This is peak BLM, peak COVID. I was like, I've got to talk about this. This is insane. Dr. Fauci, I'm not going to have any opinion on this guy. The BLM, raise your fist or you can't eat your meal in peace. I was like, there's no way I'm not saying anything about this. So I kind of lost it, honestly, the wall between me and the opinion offering. And on some of the things, I actually just had to sit down and think about, do I have an opinion on this? Like most recently, we talked about this, but like tariffs. I don't know anything about tariffs. I don't know what my opinion is. To this moment, I don't know. So some of the things I actually just had to put thought into it if I wanted to offer any guidance to the audience. And what I came to see over time is like the audience actually wanted to hear what I thought. Like it was less meaningful to them to hear me just be this impartial arbiter. They wanted to know what I thought, even if they disagreed with me. They wanted to hear my reasoning.
It's hard to sustain for 2 hours a day to be a traffic cop of people being guests on your show.
In this medium too, it doesn't work.
It's impossible to do.
And to be overly sensitive about whether or not you're going to be authentic, like 100% authentic and tell the truth as you see it from your point of view, which, 2020, the whole censorious period that followed after that was very much people guardedly offering their perspectives on various topics and doing their best to evade certain topics, but you never did that, which I suspect actually is part of the reason why the show became increasingly political in different ways.
Well, it's funny because I've been looking at like Charlie Kirk lately because there's so many attacks being heaped on him now posthumously that I'm angry about it, and I'm bit by bit attacking them just because he's not around to do it. So I'm happy to do it. And I do think one of the things people loved about Charlie and one of the reasons he connected with so many people, yes, for sure, it was his connection with faith and the way he could evangelize our political opinions in a way very few can do. But also he really was a fearless truth teller, and he did it unabashedly. He said all the things and he was really frank about them in a way that was jarring for some people to hear, but was real and was true and was unafraid. And like now going back through like the clips that they used to bash him, I see it tenfold, like this is why I loved Charlie. These things that they're plucking are the things that made me fall in love with the guy. Like at a very young age, he was very brave. And for many years, they just dismissed him as like fringe or, conspiratorial, whatever, none of which is true of Charlie. And now it's kind of funny to see them now that he's not around to defend himself, trying to resurrect those false claims.
It's also we
won't allow it.
The exact opposite of the definition of fringe. I was incredibly mainstream, and he was resonating with people, and that's interesting to look at, even if you don't agree with him. And I was, when we were on the show last time, I was offended by this, and you called back to the Trump shooting. I think when I said something very similar to this, is that this is not a time to adjudicate what Charlie believed and whether he was right or not, because what you're trying to do is get to a conclusion of whether or not he deserved it.
That's it.
Right?
Yep.
Because if you're saying, well, he said this about that, look, you're on the radio 2-3 hours a day, as it says about Rush Limbaugh all the time. If he didn't have a big catalog of weird statements or things I disagree with, I would think there was something incredibly wrong when you're talking that much. I disagree with myself from yesterday, much less
You're not the only one.
10 years ago. And Charlie Kirk started to do this when he was 18 or 19 years old. My response to that, my negativity about the negative response, was not because of anything in particular that he said. Or it's just like, why are we actually putting this stuff under the microscope now when we should be talking about this outrageous, bout of political violence?
Well, I know why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're afraid. They see these 122,000 chapters applied for at Turning Points USA, which only had 2,000 the day Charlie died.
Oh, wow.
2,000, 1,000 at colleges and 1,000 at high schools, thereabouts. And they're scared. They're trying to stop it. They're trying to get to the parents of those kids to say, racist, bigot, horrible man, transphobe, don't have your kid open up a Turning Point. That's why. So it's on. I don't want to have this discussion now either, but if they're going to force it in the pages of the New York Times and with Ezra Klein and Ta-Nehisi Coates, it's on. Good. Let's do it. Then fine.
When Ezra Klein seems like, well, he's the reasonable one in this conversation by far. And I actually sat through the entire conversation and talked about it in the other show that I did last night, which drives me crazy. But on this point, we had, was it not the last time we were on your show, the time before that, when we had a funny disagreement about you saying, I don't care, punish them. Do you remember this?
And this is Lisa.
Who did I want punished?
Yeah, and it was just like, you were like...
It's a long list of people I was like...
Wait,
frankly, that's every time we go on the show.
She was like, you mean the guy that cooked my dinner last night? No, somebody else. In the
Not Doug. Doug's fine.
Fuck them, punish poor Doug. It's like, fuck him, punish him. He's like, sorry. His Scottish
That's
mother.
you who want to punish Doug.
But on that, and we were like, no, there's principle here.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about this on the show recently, about sort of vengeance and payback versus principle, right? I mean, it's like...
feel good.
Yeah, right. So, right?
Yeah. It's either your words or the whiskey.
Okay.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
We'll give her more because it's going to feel great after the second one. But where are you on that? Because we were meekly... saying like, no, Megyn, we can't do this because the next time those guys will have that power. And it's bad when they have that power. So it's bad when anybody has that power. How are you thinking about that now? Because there's so many people that I think rightfully we all want to see suffer, but let's do it in the way that's kind of above board. You're a no.
You're like,
right?
let's get him.
I'm where I was in our last conversation.
Let's torture him.
I think one of two things will happen after we're done with these 4 years of power, and ideally, 8 or 12. But let's say we lose in 2028. One of two things will happen. Either they will have learned their lessons after we put them through 4 years of pain and did to them what they've been doing to us, and they'll stop, or they'll double down and they'll do more of it to us, like even more than they did during Biden's 4 years. And I'm fine with either of those. I really am, because there is no way we get to I'm standing down when they're back in power if we stand down right now. Zero chance. If the Republicans don't use the power while they have it, there is no outcome of they were nice guys, so we're going to be nice guys. The Democrats are not capable of that. They're either going to hurt us without us having hurt them, or they'll hurt us a little worse. I just think there's no way forward that leads to a good result without us trying.
But if you don't think of it in a party political way of that, who wins this time or next time, will they do it next time? In a principle way that we don't want to use the government or empower the government. Okay. So you're done with principle on this?
Yes, done. Well, no. I'm not done with principle. We're arguing about tactics. The tactic
they do intersect, right? Tactics and principle.
Well, you have to. We're trying to get to where we used to be, like during the Bush years when everything was peaceful. Oh wait. But where our battles internally didn't include locking up our adversaries, right? And like harassing everybody we didn't like. If we could just get back to that, that'd be great. But my own view is the only way back to that is to hurt them in all the ways that they hurt us. They have to feel the pain uniquely and acutely, and only that will make them reluctant to unleash these powers against us when they inevitably get back to power.
The word that jumps out at me is we. When did you become a we? Or when did the we?
Well, I'm not we Republican. I don't like Republicans.
I know, but you just said we 13 times.
Team sanity. Like Team sanity. Right now that happens to be the GOP. But I'm an independent and I'll never be a registered Republican. I've been a registered Dem. I've been a registered Republican. I think I told you guys that in my voting history in presidential races, now I've got, I had 4 Dem, 4 Republican. Now I voted for Trump again. So I've now got 5 Republican. but I'm right down the middle on my voting history. Like, so I'm not some hard partisan. But team sanity is very much with the GOP right now. You can't vote as a Democrat if you care about America. I really think that. I just think they've gone so insane. They're chopping off the body parts of healthy children. Who could vote for these lunatics?
But you've had moments recently when I've listened to the show when you've had that principle, like troops in Chicago and places. You say, well, I don't know if the
can't
legal...
do it without an invitation.
Correct.
Yeah.
But so there's that, right? Where you say...
That could be a we.
That could be a we, right?
You know.
There's a legal...
If President Trump did that without an invitation from the Illinois governor, I would criticize him.
Yeah.
I would absolutely go on the air and say, you can't do that.
I mean, he's sending people to Portland against Antifa. You don't like Antifa, do you, Megyn Kelly?
That's a different way in. He's sending them to protect ICE, which he has the right to do. But if he just sends a bunch of troops to, Oregon State to address the crime problem, he and I are going to have a problem. He cannot do that under the Constitution. And I will absolutely call him out, as I have many times. That's why my relationship with him has been so up and down.
I might backtrack just a little bit because I want to talk about the alternative to the escalation here, because it seems like the way that we got to here is creeping escalation over many administrations and various abuses under Democrats, under Republicans, like violations of civil liberties that were a little questionable. And if we're escalating again now, escalation the next time around seems very likely, and further escalation seems very likely. That doesn't feel like a kind of mutually assured destruction kind of situation. It seems like just outright madness. And it does seem to me that another approach might be implementing safeguards, like trying to ensure that, like it was that executive order that the administration put into place when they first came against lawfare and leveraging government power to achieve these various political ends or partisan ends. And had they actually worked on that, like trying to cultivate some sort of credibility that's bipartisan,
You're
like
so
appealing
sweet,
to the
Kmele.
sensitive people on the left. This is I can
Adorable.
only operate in this way.
Totes adorbs.
But it does seem to me that is not just practical. It's actually the way that we got to founding the country. The founders had to set aside their differences and come
It's not gonna
together
work.
and try and press forward
I love it on paper. It's not going to work.
because they're too crazy.
Yeah, they're too crazy. They're the ones who crossed the breach. They're the ones who tried to imprison our former president,
And
our nominated candidate for the rest of his life, and tried to bankrupt him and change the law so he could be sued civilly by that nutcase E. Jean Carroll. That's my opinion, E. Jean, and I'm entitled to it. Don't sue me.
Yeah.
Because it's on if you do. I'm with her too. All of them. For sure.
I think when she says don't, she's saying do.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a very mean lawyer, and I'm really proud of that fact. But anyway, my point is, they're the ones who crossed all of these norms, right? Like, it's amazing. Like the Wall Street Journal, of all places, tweeted out that the Trump administration's indictment of Comey was unprecedented. Oh, really? Unprecedented? In what way? The fact that he has a particular title that hasn't been indicted before? You guys, the left crossed the unprecedented bridge
they
first.
did, but had
Not
Joe,
just with Trump, but all of his top aides who
But
actually
had-
served prison time.
yeah, but we all everyone at this table criticized
Yeah, you
that
guys aren't
stuff.
hypocrites.
We were on your show criticizing
had
it for 4 years.
The unprecedented dimension here is that the president of the United States publicly, and then deleted it, although he would later restate it, we look weak. We need to go after these
Pam,
people, and we need to
get
punish
after
them.
it.
Pam,
Get after them.
Pam,
They still call them shifty shift.
Yeah, I mean,
Shifty
I
shift,
think
gotta go after
the, even
She wasn't
even the
gonna listen to
pretense,
us,
the
did the
pretense of an independent judicial branch, like pursuing the law and actually prosecuting people on the basis of the evidence without any sort of partisan favor. Even that pretense, I think, is actually important. When you obliterate the pretense and proceed directly to, look, this is how it is. You
How
fucked
do you
with us,
think
we
it
fuck with
wound
you.
up in the New York Times in April of 2022
I'm with you,
that Joe Biden was pressuring the DOJ to indict Trump?
undoubtedly.
How do you think that wound
No,
up there?
I would say leaks.
Why was that in there?
It was problematic. It was criminal. They were trying to justify their actions in
they were
various
going
instances.
public with their pressure on Merrick Garland. The pretense was
Zero
eviscerated.
Zero dispute.
And then what happened
in
with
that
Merrick
regard.
Garland? He did it.
Yeah.
So forget it. Yeah.
No, zero
you
dispute in
You're
that
upset
regard.
about the pretense
Yeah.
being gone. Take it up with Joe Biden.
Okay.
He crossed all these norms. And not only did they indict Trump twice through his federal special prosecutor, but the feds cooperated with both the New York and the Georgia prosecutions. They were involved in both of them. These guys were
While
determined
pretending
to
to
put
stay out of it.
Yeah, to put Donald Trump in jail. They didn't care if he spent every last day behind bars and to bankrupt him and to humiliate him with the E. Jean Carroll thing. They couldn't have cared less. And not just him, but Roger Stone, who he had the same charges that James Comey did. The FBI showed up at his house at 6 a.m. to arrest him. Guess what? The New York Times was there. CNN was there on the Roger Stone. The FBI came at 6. CNN was there at 6:04. Oh, we just got lucky. We didn't, just like we got lucky with the Mar-a-Lago raid. Geez, sometimes you just have a sixth sense for it. But James Comey, have you seen a perp walk of him? Did the FBI raid his house and humiliate him? So I mean, he should be thankful that we're not doing to him exactly what they did to Trump and Trump's emissaries. Also, Peter Navarro, also Steve Bannon, who allegedly committed the same crime that Merrick Garland committed, contempt of Congress. But guess who didn't get prosecuted? Guess who didn't sit in jail? Merrick Garland, because he runs the DOJ. I'm sorry, but it's war right now. It's war, not in the ideally firing sense. I mean, we have had our people get shot, but these are policy wars and a war for the soul of the country. And I firmly believe now, and I'm pretty moderate in my politics, that if we don't fight fire with fire, we'll lose.
But that's not moderate, right? That is every election is on a war footing. And there's an equal number of people who, say they started it first, not necessarily Megyn Kelly.
But this is a fact that the Dems fight. Like, you can't argue this fact.
You can say
who was indicted by a Republican president that was running for president on the other side?
It wouldn't be necessarily the specific, a perfectly matching indictment. Mm-hmm. But they started it first could be lawfare, could be crazy. You talked about crazy people. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the most sane member of Congress. It's not hard to point and look at Republicans and see some crazy out there. And so they get as hepped up, right? They're ready to then go to war next time they win. So every presidential election is this momentous, this side's going to go to war against this side. I don't see how that's ever going to lead to any kind of de-escalation in a way that's favorable to those of us who don't have a we necessarily.
Because they have to feel that there's risk involved to them if they do it again. If they don't feel the risk, they're going to keep doing it. They've proven that. It's the only way to keep the kid from touching the stove again is for them to touch the hot stove. But they have to feel the pain in order for it to really bring the lesson home. Otherwise, the kid might touch the cold stove a second time. Not that I've favored this in my own family. I'm not saying this is a parenting method. But I'm just saying for these guys, unless they actually fear that this could happen to them or their family, they will do it again. They think the ends justify the means. They did something truly extraordinary and dangerous when they did this to Trump and his people. And so I really am, and I do not, in the same way where I would draw the line on Trump sending troops that weren't invited by the governor. He can send them to protect ICE, but he can't just send them in as a crime force. I do draw the line at you can't just make up crimes like they did against Trump.
Sure.
That I'm not in favor of. There has to be an actual crime. And if it turns out Lisa Cook did not actually commit mortgage fraud or James Comey cannot be gotten on this, lying to Congress charge, then he must be let go. And the process would have been the punishment. But there must be at least a good faith basis to believe they committed a crime.
Yeah, the process is the punishment, obviously. But guys like Andy McCarthy, somebody you respect and that we respect, who has said this is a dog's breakfast of a case, and it's clearly just punishment, and that is what's happening here. To your point, though, I agree with you in the sense that if the special prosecutor stuff, and you remember Ken Starr and then Lawrence Walsh, who was the Iran-Contra stuff, and then there was a bipartisan thing that we have to get rid of this law.
Yeah.
Right.
And how long did that last? We got rid of it in a bipartisan way and everyone's like, yeah, fuck it.
Well, there's the independent counsel.
Correct.
There's the special counsel,
these,
but it really doesn't save you.
It's the same thing at the end of the day. But as you well know, if Republicans lose the House, impeachment starts the next day.
This is the challenge.
No one cares because there won't be a trial in the Senate because the GOP will control the Senate.
Yeah. Although they could lose more than the House. And I suspect even if you're right, that one of the risks is if the party goes too far, and I put it this way, if the Trump administration goes too far in exacting retribution, again, even if it's constrained in the way that you described, these are legitimate people who committed legitimate crimes. They're being prosecuted for them. And are we being a little selective about this? Maybe.
Would we have looked the other way?
Yeah.
On a mortgage fraud,
sure, maybe
an application if they hadn't done this to us.
And one imagines they're actually looking for the mortgage fraud in these particular instances. But set all that aside, and let's presume that you're right. It's possible that what Republicans actually end up doing is putting themselves in the wilderness for an extended, protracted period of time.
It is
because people don't trust them anymore. In which case, if the left is the danger. This could actually be a mechanism for allowing them to come back to power because, I mean...
I don't disagree with that, Kmele. That's the danger to Republicans in doing this because the American populace is not really in favor of retribution, and they're probably not going to like this lawfare stuff. Though Trump's approval rating has not gone down since he started this. Like the stuff about Schiff, the stuff about Letitia James, the stuff about Lisa Cook has been out there in the latest New York Times polling, and Trump's numbers didn't change. They went up 1 point from month 4 to month 8. So far it hasn't been hurting him at all. Now, if we have a bunch of people indicted and it dominates the news day to day,
that could change.
This is a concern.
What do you think Americans want Republicans to be? I mean, it's been a very interesting thing for me and for us. I mean, we come on your show as the slightly adversarial libertarians, right? We're in the same tent. I mean, if you look at us on there, we're probably agreeing with you 88% of the time. And then we have that 10, 12, 15% where we're like, well, the Constitution and being nerdy.
Well, what about immigration?
Well, that's Matt. Let's even, if we want to cut, can we just do a separate? Let's cut him out of it.
I too like.
I've become much more skeptical.
I know,
much more skeptical.
Michael Penn over
that's
here.
just me. But as far as like what it is to be a Republican, I mean, you said you don't know what you think about tariffs, for instance. You know, for the libertarian wing of the party, and I don't.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
against
part of
him. When Trump said he was going to raise tariffs on 10% across the board, you guys were like,
on 10%.
No,
That's
10%.
enough for me
Nice.
now.
At
Now
this
he's
point,
like,
that's what
wait,
I
you know,
want.
this film's coming in 300%. I'm like, what are you talking about?
all drug companies 100%.
Yeah, like, what? No, this is all bad. So, but this stuff, and I get that was not really meshing with voters, like Cato Institute white papers.
Yeah.
That's not what the voters wanted. They wanted a more populist thing. But at the same time, like what is, I mean, you go out there, you have a very big audience, you're going to do this tour, we'll be a part of this tour, come to Anaheim.
I'm excited.
Provided after this episode we don't get kicked off. We'll see what happens. Don't buy your tickets yet for us. But what is it to be a Republican, to be a conservative now? Because it's so divorced from what it was for me 10, 15 years ago on so many issues. And we're not talking about
like
Israel and foreign policy and Iran and this stuff. It's just, you know, free trade is a big one. Government power is a big one. What
spending.
Is it? Spending, God.
Do you guys know what the latest numbers on spending, by the way?
Oh, no.
$6.66 trillion.
Wow, 3 6.
Demonic
trillion. The demonic trillion.
That's how much we're spending.
But, you know, it's also things like the government owning part of Intel. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I mentioned this story 1,000 times on this show of when I was talking to Steve Bannon about this. And I said, you were editor of Breitbart during, you know, the auto bailouts. And you guys were railing about this. And he's like, yeah, we were wrong. And I was like, oh, you have changed that much. And he's like, yep. And then he said a bunch of nice things about AOC, and I wanted to put a gun in my mouth.
I know.
It's like he's like a socialist Republican in a way.
He ripped on her on my show like a week ago.
Really?
He's not in favor of her messaging.
For people with short memories, he ripped on you a fair amount.
Oh, we used to be arch enemies.
Arch enemies.
And then you had your rapprochement on the show.
Yes. I want to say something about Andy McCarthy and Steve Bannon, and then try to get back to that question. I'm not sure what it is. But we're the conservative party. What
is it to be a conservative Republican now?
Okay, so I guess I'll start with that. I mean, MAGA's taken over the Republican Party. So, you know, to be a Republican now is to be a MAGA Republican.
But there's still fissures within MAGA.
Yeah, or you're in the minority, which is fine. But the National Review guys, who I love all those National Review. I love Rich, a ton, Charles Cook, and Andy, love them all. But I think they would admit that they're not in the majority of their own party right now.
Yeah.
But they have held true to their principles. And if you read NRO, which I do every day, you'll see they're still holding true to their principles. They're not like big fans of Donald Trump.
No.
So I admire that because those are their deeply held principles and they have not abandoned them in the era of Trump.
Yeah.
I think most of the Republican Party is pro-Trump now and has adopted the MAGA core beliefs. I'm somebody who was not really ideological for most of my life and was not in the business of like signing on to this opinion or that or this school of thought or that. For most of my adult life, I was a soulless lawyer who could see both sides on virtually everything, which really helped me in my reporting.
Are you now a soulless podcast host?
I'm more soulful. I would say I'm more soulful. And I wouldn't describe myself as MAGA. I don't really identify with any ideology. I don't like team jerseys. I don't want to have to support everything Trump does or anybody else does.
But maybe MAGA is not fully ideological, right? It's more like of a cultural feeling, like the left's coming to get us.
Yes, well, that I identify with. And I speak fluent MAGA. I think I understand the MAGA base very well. And I'm much more aligned with them than I am anybody else in our culture right now. Like even more so than the NRL folks who I love and I want to hear from, but they don't speak for me usually.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to Andy, who I adore and who is brilliant by any man's measure. But I will say, with all due respect to my friend, he does suffer a little bit from the TDS, Matt. And
Not a little bit.
And
Matt was hospitalized
even in the
earlier
house
this year.
Yeah,
It was
it's
really bad. Yeah.
it can cloud your judgment on Trump. And I'll just give you one example. I listen to the editors every time it comes out, twice weekly, and I listen to Andy's podcast, Standalone, every time it comes out.
Yeah.
But throughout the whole Trump run leading up to 24, Andy was predicting Trump would lose, that he'd be so bogged down in lawfare, there'd be so much negative news around him that there wasn't enough strength in the party to get him over the edge. And I never agreed with that. You know, I entertained it and I reported what he was saying and had people kick it around on the show. Never really believed it. And he was so very wrong. And I do think he was a little clouded by his dislike of Donald Trump. And I am factoring that in right now to what he's writing about the Comey stuff, because Andy was really, really convinced that this indictment was all based on Andy McCabe leaking.
Right.
And it really looks like that's wrong too, that this is a different guy, this Daniel or whatever his last name is, not Ratcliffe, it's close to that, who was leaking for Comey. He was his friend and he came on as a special governmental employee for about a year and a half or two. Anyway, it looks like it was a totally different leak. That's a little harder to discount and is going to make the case a little bit easier for the government. And Andy refused to talk, like he was dug in on the McCabe thing, which again appears to be wrong. So even the great vaunted Andy McCarthy, again, who I adore and who's brilliant, I think needs to try to separate himself from his TDS if he wants his legal analysis to stay strong and really accurate. And who was the other one? There was one other name. What did we just say? I said I wanted to.
Can I get another refill?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
That'll help you remember.
If I have one more, I'll remember.
We'll come back to us in a minute.
Yeah, but in the Republic, this is the thing within MAGA of what it is and what it is to be MAGA. I mean, you say that it's what
Bannon.
Bannon. Yeah.
There
Okay, got it.
Shirts.
Takes me a second. So Bannon and I hated each other's guts.
Yeah.
He was running Breitbart, which came for me viciously after that Trump debate, and I think,
endlessly.
I mean, it was really
crazy,
brutal, featured in long 60 Minutes pieces and so on.
But also to point out that you said at some point publicly, I'm not, spilling the beans here, that you had to have security. There were people threatening you because of this. I mean,
yes,
for you to get over that is pretty impressive.
I mean, I
don't know that I would.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
To quote Elizabeth Bennet about Mr. Darcy, I just see him so differently now.
Yeah.
No, it's not a romantic
weird
thing.
analogy.
You have a different type of TDS, don't you? You just love Trump so much that
but
you
I do
forgive.
love Steve Bannon. I'm completely over all that stuff. It's completely forgotten and forgiven.
Yeah.
It's politics. Politics is
ain't
ugly.
beanbag.
It's dirty.
Yeah.
If you're going to get in the arena, you're going to get some sharp elbows right to the gut and the face. And if you can't take it, you should find a different
But
business.
you're getting those more than anyone now because you're on that podcast chart, right? Because you're so influential, because you have such big numbers, is that Megyn, please sort out the Republican Party is
that's so weird.
Pretty much everything I've seen since our last appearance, shall we say.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't realize that I had helped precipitate this.
I know.
I swear to God, I didn't. I don't know where I went. I went somewhere. I was gone for a week and I came back and I was like, wait, that time we were on, that was a thing? And it's a thing. And that's just about your success and about your power, because people presume that you have the power to move the party and move MAGA and expel people and accept people. That's kind of a new position for you, isn't it?
I don't have that power. That is not within my capabilities, nor do I want it to be in my power. I mean, obviously we're talking about the pressure on me right now to denounce Candace Owens or denounce Tucker, which I've said.
I did that on your show, by the way.
Yeah, right.
That's my role,
Well,
Megyn.
this is part of the point I was going to make. So there's a lot of pressure on me to do that, and I'm not going to do that. And I've been
You've been very clear about that on Twitter.
Yeah, I've been having Twitter wars, X wars. I've said it on my show, and people are very angry with me for not doing that. And
that's people within your own camp, by the way. There's a lot of people that I know that are friends of yours that have been pretty rough.
Well, they're very frustrated with some of the coverage that they're seeing from those two, and they think I have the power to like chastise them out of this coverage. And I don't think I have that power, nor would I exercise it if I did. I'm not interested in doing that. I am not godmother to the Republican Party. I'm not anybody's mommy. I'm responsible for what I say and only what I say. And my approach to covering the news and covering Republican politics and all the wars that we're discussing is generally to get as wide of a diverse viewpoint, group of viewpoints on my show as I can. You mentioned the tour. We're having Tucker Carlson on the tour, and we're having Ben Shapiro, I think, the next night. Or it's the reverse, like literally within a couple nights of each other.
I think you have them the same night in a cage.
If there's anybody in the nation who could get those two guys to come on together, it is me.
Yeah.
I submit humbly. I really do think I could make that happen.
Sure.
And your relationship with Ben Shapiro has not
No,
been,
I love Ben.
You guys
we're really tight, and he's been so respectful. He was on a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we talked about my very mild criticisms of Israel. I mean, truly, like, I'm not an Israeli critic. I don't know why people are treating me like I am. It's because I won't denounce these other two. I've had some mild pushback. I'm at the point, like a lot of Americans, where I just feel like it's gone on a long time, and like I can see them losing all the support. But anyway, we talked about it. Ben agreed with what I was saying. He was like, they do need to wrap it up. They know that. I've said that to Netanyahu myself. He told me. So anyway, on this tour, we'll have Tucker. We'll have Ben. We'll have you guys, who I think are more pro-Israel or defensive of Israel. We'll have Emily Jashinsky. We'll have Glenn Greenwald, who are in the opposite camp.
Glenn's going to be on.
Glenn's going to be on.
Look at that.
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's important to me to be able to. We have NRO, all the National Review guys, who are coming, and they'll take a much more bellicose stance, I think, on some of these issues. And then a Steve Bannon type, like he's MAGA. Like on my show, it's important to me to be able to have all these people come and feel like their viewpoints will be respected and that they can express them fully. And then I trust my audience to make up their own minds. I am not in the business of then running around after you do me the courtesy of coming on my show and telling me your viewpoint of being like, he sucks, he's terrible, he's an anti-Semite or an Islamophobe or a racist. Which I don't believe, I'm not going to do it. And now it's turned into like this faction that's trying to pressure me online feels to me like the BLM people. Raise your fist and say it. Say it.
It does have that dimension to
and
it.
the answer's no.
Yeah.
Now that you're making me say it, a condition of our relationship, it's a hard no.
But this is literally a conversation we had
You've
today,
only hardened my resolve to never do it.
Yeah,
like, I will never be bullied. Ask anybody. That's the one thing that I will never bend the knee to. I'm not going to be bullied into saying something.
Let me ask you a question about that, because we had saying we had lunch today and we were talking about this, in that is clearly your response on X and on your show, is that the more you push me, the more I'm going to say fuck you to you, which is a honest and natural response.
Irish, yeah.
An Irish response. I don't want to impugn my people, but that's who we are. It's like, don't fucking make me say it, because I'll fucking punch you. But that kind of response, like, if it wasn't that way, if there wasn't that big push, you just gave Andy McCarthy, like, you said, I love the guy, but
that's the irony.
Here's where I think he's wrong.
That's totally the irony.
So you can say that about people.
No,
you have said that about a lot of people. But when they say do it to Tucker or Candace, you pull back.
So Tucker is in a different camp because I adore Tucker. I love him.
I will say, and I've said this, and I've said this privately to people, because incidentally, people have said it to me and probably to us. We get a lot of emails like, you're on Megyn's show. Why aren't you saying X? Why are you still going on? That kind of thing. Yeah. So we get it as, second tier people too. But
speak for yourself.
A third tier, actually. Sorry, I didn't want to elevate you where you don't deserve to be. That's fine. But that kind of thing, I understand. And I knew Tucker back in the day, and I texted him about a year ago.
His libertarian days.
In his libertarian days, and he said in a text, like, I think we agree on a lot of things. I'm like, I don't think so these days. But I get the friend.
I think you probably do. You probably do.
Maybe on some things, but there's big things.
Right.
Huge things where I'm like, okay, you've gone to conspiracy world, and I hate conspiracy world. But when it comes to those things, when it comes to Candace and Tucker and stuff, is it only because people are pushing you on this? And because of people say the accusation of anti-Semitism, I will say forthrightly, full-throatedly, that is an absurd bullshit charge that doesn't stick to you in any way. Dennis Prager I think he might be the prime minister of Israel. I'm not even sure at this point.
Unofficially,
There's no one that loves Israel more than Dennis Prager, who made a video saying the same thing. And I think that that's true. At the same time, when it comes to these people, you know what my position is in this. I was on your show saying, when you said things are taken out of context, you didn't tell me which ones. So I went back and watched.
I just said some of the things.
Some of the things. And I'm not saying that's not true. I don't know.
But it is true. It happens sometimes.
Well, because I said right after that, they'd been taking Charlie Kirk out of context. So I went back and I started watching, and it is actually crazier than I thought. The stuff these days is crazier than I thought. And so I guess the question is, like, what are the guardrails of who you want in the coalition? Who you, say, oh, these are people, like, Candace is very popular.
That's not up to me.
I know it's not. But if you say, we're opinion mongers, that's what we do. We say this is our opinion of X, Y, and Z. Are there people that are off limits for sort of friendly reasons, I guess, in the Tucker sense?
Well, listen, there's a reason I've never invited on Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, he's an interesting guy, from what I hear, but he's not my cup of tea.
He called Ben Shapiro today filth. Filth.
He filmed himself doing a little video game where he was shooting Jews wearing the yarmulke and said the one was Ben Shapiro.
Good God.
I don't really need to see an additional video to figure out who he is. I'm good. I got it. Yeah. That was years ago, and whatever. Okay, I see he's having a resurgence. That's up to people if they want to listen to him.
He, by the way, still not a fan of the Jews. Just in that time, he was like, yeah.
Whereas I, on the other hand, have been very defensive of American Jews. Like, I feel like they were bullied, they were harassed, that what's been happening to them on college campuses is a travesty. The ripping down of the hostage posters was absolutely disgusting. Now, I make a distinction there between them and Israel, who I have no obligation to defend. But my fellow Americans who are being subjected to blatant anti-Semitism, yes, every day of the week I've defended them and will continue to. I don't have to defend Israel, and I don't defend Israel. I generally am on Israel's side. I'm certainly not on the side of Hamas, which is a terrorist organization and was absolutely vile and disgusting in that 10/7 attack, and I cried on the air after it happened. But that doesn't mean I don't get to criticize Israel. I think it's gone on too long. And as much as I see that Hamas is great at propaganda, they've been controlling the narrative, the Gaza Ministry of Peace, whatever they put out, those numbers are all lies, and a lot of these photos are lies, and they put out the sickest child that they've made sick. I know what Hamas does, trust me, and I've been covering it. But that doesn't mean that the devastation and destruction can go on forever. And Israel's now taken out Hezbollah. It's decimated Hamas. It had a war with Iran that we almost got dragged into, in more full flower. It's time to wrap it up in this American's view. I am entitled to that opinion, and I will not be shamed out of it by being called an anti-Semite. Now, as for my decision to platform Tucker, too bad, too fucking bad. I love him. We're friends. I don't think he's an anti-Semite at all. Don't listen to all of Tucker's shows. I don't listen to all your shows. I don't have that many hours in the
Broadcasting 17 hours a day.
Yeah, seriously. So, I raise my kids.
Our shows are very anti-Semitic sometimes. I don't know.
Well,
we have weak moments.
Yeah, that's you too.
But I don't really care. I think Tucker's a very important, valuable voice in the national conversation. I'm thrilled.
Do you think Candace has a platform? I think Candace is apart from Tucker.
I don't know her. I don't really know her that well. Although I will tell you, we recently had a very nice exchange before all this. And I was just reminded in my own head that Candace is a young mom of 3 young kids. She's under a lot of pressure. She's got a big show. She's been under attack since she came onto the public airwaves, and she's been under attack constantly. And it's my prerogative if I say to myself, that is not someone I wish to attack. I do not feel that way. I don't want to do it. Yeah. And I felt this way. And now that people have made my attacking her the stakes of my relationship with whatever person is saying this, I'm going to have to say goodbye to that person. I won't do it.
I think
now it's like a point of pride. Yeah. It's literally the same thing as the BLM folks trying to make you raise your fist. I think the answer is no.
I think there's a lot of truth to that, and I would take it out of the realm of kind of personal appraisal of this person and whether or not you like them and care about them, and just like we began the conversation talking about Charlie's death and murder, and of late there have been a number of people, not solely Candace, this is not about her, but a number of people promulgating conspiracy theories. And we live in an age of conspiracy theories. The left and the right are stewing them in ways that make me deeply, deeply uncomfortable. And one of the latest conspiracy theories is, and it's multidimensional, always in these ways that are completely bizarre, that Turning Points had some financial issues, that the the Israel or the Jews broadly were somehow involved in his death, and it was because of this change. And it is so obviously ridiculous, self-evidently ridiculous, that I find myself amazed that anyone can take this on board in precisely the way I was amazed in 2020 when I saw this incredible harassment taking place on street corners when people are trying to have dinner, or any number of other insane ideas. And I actually saw a kid when you were at a Turning Points event recently,
that was the viral
ask you
clip,
a question about this, about Nick Fuentes in particular, but also just about this cadre of people who believe in and are pushing like the most outrageous ideas. And it does seem like there are moments where you have said, this is not the way. These are not the right ideals.
I'm not conspiratorial at all. Like I'm much closer to where you guys are. And I'm not a conspiratorial person. I'm really not. I'm like, trust the government. Truly, like
we don't do that.
I don't, exactly. I don't trust any particular government.
But I truly I don't believe in almost any of these conspiracies. I really don't.
But are you concerned about this? Are you as concerned as I am? Or perhaps how concerned are you about the specter of all of the conspiracy theories in our politics? Do you think think it's an important part of what's happening?
I think, first of all, I think the antidote to it is not to run around attacking these people, but to just say what's true.
Like I actually agree with that.
I was asked, and I've said on my show many times, what I think happened to Charlie, and I do believe he was murdered by Tyler Robinson, a disaffected young man who had, I don't know, maybe had a good childhood. It's not clear to me. I want to know more, frankly. And then fell into this very bizarre group and started dating a trans person who's also a furry, and himself got into furry culture, according to his social media, and became untethered. And then was fed a bunch of lies about Charlie, I think. We don't actually know how he came to believe Charlie was a fascist and hateful and all the things he said about Charlie. But I'm going to bet he was listening to the American media and the American left. That's actually one of the things I'd like to find out more about him. And got it in his head that murder was an answer. And I do think, as we talked about earlier, the cheers for Luigi Mangione may have played into that. We'll have to find all those facts out. But that's what I think happened. And I have spent zero time, literally zero, entertaining videotapes of the bullet and the this and I just don't go there. And I actually have a policy in general of not allowing that stuff to infect my mind, because I do think if you spent a lot of time like pondering, did we land on the moon? You could maybe get sucked into it. And I just don't want to. I only have limited hours in the day.
Sure.
I have real problems that people are suffering from right now that I do have to weigh in on and help people navigate. And this stuff doesn't seem to be on my list. It doesn't need to be on my list. And I choose not to make it on my list.
How did the Charlie Kirk assassination change you, if it did, or your sense of things? And was there a moment or two or 17 where you're like, maybe I'm not going to go in public in front of thousands of people a lot in the very near future? How did that play out?
Not only, you did at a Turning Point event.
Yeah,
and
like
you were
a week or 10
stage,
days later.
And I was like, oof, this is,
I mean, it has changed me. It's been less than 3 weeks. I mean, right now I'm still angry about it.
Yeah.
It's dissipating. Like you could say, how are you? And I could honestly say, I'm great. I'm great. Like my life is great. Thank God. But, I wouldn't have said the word great a week into it. But now I'm starting to feel more like myself. I'm still very angry, which for me is like a great emotion. I love anger. I do.
We couldn't tell.
I know.
Wait, Megyn, you're saying you love anger.
I do.
Megyn Kelly. That's what fuels you.
It really helps you work through an issue. You express it and then it's out of you and you feel good.
I
like
love
in
alcohol, by the way.
Well, that's okay, but that's a different relationship with anger, because some people nurture the contempt. They want to stew in it, and that's very different than I'm angry. I've expressed it. I've dealt with it in some way.
Yes, expressing it is what it's the release. It's like, yes, okay, I've expressed it, and therefore I feel better, and like I'm okay now. Like we've worked it out. We've called out bad guys and like bad behavior. So I find that very cathartic, and I think a lot of my audience does too. And I think anger is an appropriate reaction to a lot of what we see. I think suppressing anger would be far worse, or pretending that it's something else.
No, it's a real emotion. It's a real emotion we should recognize.
My sort of anger about this, and to one time, I didn't want to talk about this, it's just me talking about it, is to that one person who shall not be named, Candace. The thing that made me angry about this is that she has been stewing in insane anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. And I don't say this of Tucker, I'm just saying specifically of her, that I have known, because I've studied this stuff for a long time. History is my interest, particularly 20th century history. We've seen these, the Judeo-Bolsheviks and all this stuff. I've heard a million times. Stalin was Jewish. Everything bad was Jewish. Was that to use the opportunity of Charlie's death to talk about Israel, when Israel was not part of that conversation, beyond the conversation, let's say, that you had with him, which I don't think there's any difference between that letter and what he talked about with you, because to say I support Israel and I'm upset about where this is going, it's, the numbers are going down amongst young people. Let's wrap this up. Is, as I said on the show, my friend Eli Lake.
I do think there's a little difference, just to put a pin in that. And we can
talk about it. But, my friend Eli Lake, who's just like, I don't think they should go into Gaza City again. People in Israel are opposed to Netanyahu and this stuff. So there's that kind of tumult and debate that you have in Israel and amongst people who are supportive of Israel. But the fact that I turn her show on, and it's a long disquisition on Israel's potential involvement in this, is that this is your deranged obsession. And now you're applying it with zero evidence, zero. We were talking before this. We care about evidence and what, zero evidence that there's some involvement of Israel in this crime. And to say that I'm overstating that is not only, no one has, but I can see the comments right now, is I'm understating it. I've watched this stuff and I'm blown away by it, particularly because she's up in the top 10 of these podcast charts too.
Yeah.
And this disgusting stuff that is just Jew obsessed. I'm sorry. She is Jew obsessed. And I could make a 2-hour clip of her talking about what's Jewish and what the Jewish people are doing here. Not Israeli people, talking about Jewish people. Stalin was Jewish. Lenin was Jewish. Who was the Bolshevik Revolution was all Jews. And okay, this is just classic, boring anti-Semitism. And I know the sensitivity that we have of being called racist, because we have talked about things since the beginning of the show to now, and you say, oh, that jeans ad, you like the jeans ad, you're a racist.
Totally.
This is not that. I am very finely tuned to that stuff. This is just deranged bananas conspiracy and anti-Semitism that people who I know who have been supporters and fans of hers, who have texted me after our appearance, which I didn't know made any impact at first, was like, no, it's worse. And sending me these lists of this stuff. In my anger about this stuff was that was used in the same way the shooting of Donald Trump was used to make political points outside the purview of what was at hand there. Let's bring Israel. What the fuck are you talking about? What does Israel have to do with this? Well, Charlie was shaky on that. Yeah, let's talk about that. That's fine. We should look at his legacy.
Well, that's what we talked about.
Mm-hmm. We talked about that, but that's totally fine to talk about. But the reason we were talking about it was because these deranged lunatics were saying, well, the Israelis must have killed her because he was getting, killed him because he was getting a little shaky on Israel. Which is beyond comprehension that sensible people could think that. So my anger about that is not about cleansing this, that, and you should gatekeep here. And personally, I saw that stuff and I thought it was fucking disgusting. In a disgusting way of treating somebody's brutal murder to make your little fucking pet political cause the number one thing. And why have all the episodes since then been about Israel? Why not just about him and his legacy and not about the thing that you decided you cared about a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, whatever it is? I find that deeply, deeply unsettling.
Well, I totally understand that. I mean, I'm not going to comment on it for the reasons that I've discussed. And I haven't seen 1 minute of it. I haven't seen the show. I haven't seen a clip. I haven't seen any of this stuff.
This isn't answer for that, Megyn.
Yeah, it's not.
This is my own irritation.
I hear you.
Not at all lubricated by
and
no,
of course, I have
by the way.
plenty of Jewish people and Jewish friends in my life who have said similar things to me. So I know you're giving voice to a real sentiment that's out there. And Jews are already in the minority, and they already feel under attack, and they feel like anti-Semitism doesn't matter to anybody, and their people are getting shot outside of the embassy in Washington, and then there's no follow-up, and I get all of that.
Killed in Denver with a Molotov cocktail, killed in California to protest.
And then it's ignored.
Yeah.
So I get all of that.
Yeah.
If people want me to be the policewoman of the Republican Party, and I'm not going to be. And I do think that they made a mistake in trying to force me to comment on something, because ultimately, if this took its course, I probably would have weighed in at some point. But now it's a matter of principle. Now it's you will bend or we won't watch you. Okay, then I guess you're not going to watch me because I'm not playing this game. I didn't play it. I didn't post a black square. I didn't raise a fist. I never said BLM
Well, that's
other
'cause
than
you were
with
racist,
scorn.
right?
Yeah, fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I
There was
withstood-
Megan's black square.
Truly. They've been calling me a racist and a
Megan, you're wearing a
transphobe.
black
For a
top
very long
today
time.
for
All
Black
these things
Lives
for
Matter.
years.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not those things either. And I know I'm not an anti-Semite. And anybody who says that, because I won't say the magical words about Candace, can F off. Because like I know who I am and I've earned the right to more grace on this issue than that. But if they don't want to give it to me, that's a them problem. Like I don't know what to say about it. Like I've definitely got my thoughts. Trust me, I've got my thoughts, but they're mine.
Yeah.
You were
So
saying
do you want to throw away the list of people that we wanted her to expel from the party? Matt printed it out.
taped underneath the table. You said earlier about how you speak MAGA. You speak MAGA a little bit better than maybe some of our friends at National Review. And by the way, I don't have TDS. I have JDDS.
Oh.
Ooh.
Not any personal animus, but like you need derangement for derangement syndrome.
Yes.
My derangement towards JD was that he wasn't going to win the Senate in Ohio,
Oh,
which I
wow.
said many, many times.
Yeah.
Maybe
Wow.
on your show, definitely on this show. Now he's like the vice president.
Yeah.
Going to be the next president. And I was just
Possibly the
Possibly
next
super
president.
I don't make those
duper
kinds of
wrong
predictions
Yeah.
anymore.
about.
Yeah.
We try hard not
You
to make
think Andy
predictions.
McCarthy was wrong?
God, no.
His track record
we
is
love him.
horrible. Yeah.
It's very
He's honest
embarrassing.
at his wrongness.
You speaking MAGA is, at least in part, you speaking with your audience, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, a large portion of them.
You are an independent powerhouse producer. What do you think about how do you worry? Do you disregard the concept of audience capture? Everybody who is in the podcast space thinks about this at some point. Does your audience want you to be like this and they mow you to go and to be part of this? Do you worry about this? Is this something you conceptualize?
No, because I think I'm in the advantaged place of them knowing they can't rely on me to only whisper sweet nothings to them about Donald Trump. Like they know that. So I've built the audience by saying what's real, even if it's bad for Trump. Like the numbers only have gone up after years of me doing that. So they know what they're getting. And the ones who wanted to abandon me for somebody who was always purely supportive of Trump probably did that long ago. Because there are a lot of options out there who will do that, who will just defend the president at every turn. You know, it's actually kind of funny because Charlie was such a person. Like Charlie loved the president so much. And I never had, like people say, what would Charlie have said about this or that or the other? And I'm always like, Charlie would have defended Trump. Like that's generally what he did because he was such a believer in him and also was such a graceful, loving, good faith kind of guy. Like he always looked at Trump through the most generous lens. He could interpret anything he did through a generous lens. In any event, I'm not like that. I'm a cynical mofo who interprets almost nothing through a generous lens. I'm all out of generosity.
Yeah.
So
That's the title of the episode, by the way, people. All out of generosity, the Megyn Kelly story.
I mean, but listen to the AM update show we did today. Today I had on Glenn Greenwald. We covered a different range, but like on the morning update show, it was about this new deal he's striking with Pfizer, the drug company, to like, we're going to lower the prescription drug costs. You can go and
I saw that. I haven't listened to it. I was like, that's not going to be a positive Trump.
No,
portrayal.
it wasn't.
Yeah,
It wasn't. So we talked about what he did because we got to give the president his due. This is something mostly Democrats, but also Republicans have wanted for years. Lower drugs, cheaper rates. Why do we have to pay more? Why aren't we most favored nation status on our Medicaid drug costs? Get it, reported it. And then part two was about how Pfizer fucking sucks. And your entire administration has been telling us that they're lying felons for years. We ran an RFKJ SOT saying exactly that. We ran a Peter Navarro SOT saying Pfizer's been lying to him. We read a bunch of tweets saying this is a total betrayal. This villainous company that's never been held to account for its failure to disclose the health risks, myocarditis, and other vaccine side effects. They lied about it stopping contagion. So that was also in there. Now that's, if you can't go to a person who's only going to whisper Trump sweet nothings to you, I'm not for you.
Is that the big concern? Like the Pfizer thing, which I hadn't listened to, and I was like, oh, Megan's going to be on fire about this one when I saw it. But you're not somebody who does that, and you call the president out when you think he's wrong about things. And I know a lot of people in the MAGA universe that have their kind of breaking point on certain things, and some people, it's foreign policy, bombing Iran. I mean, that'd be somebody like Glenn. What is it for you when you look at what Trump has been doing in this term, which is much more aggressive term than the first term, where you say, this I'm a little uneasy about, or it could go pear-shaped, or it is going pear-shaped now, and I'm like upset about the president's
there have been a couple
actions.
things, like if I could take out my eraser and undo some of the Trump behaviors, like I'm not thrilled at what he's doing to the law firms.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's illegal, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
I don't love some of the Intel deal. That feels a little Soviet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't love that.
Thank you, Megyn.
Don't love some,
Libertarians say thank you.
don't love some of the money-making ventures, for the Trump family.
Don't destroy my Trump coin value right now.
But listen, I
Literally opened a Trump hotel in Riyadh this week.
Is that true?
Yeah.
but
Did I
can I
miss
just say,
that?
Like no one
Oh,
cares.
I do have a tough time getting too worked up about it, given Hunter Biden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't care. They let their guy grift all the way into the White House, and while he was there, so I'm really having difficulty working up too much of ire about it. But if I have the eraser again and can undo whatever I have a problem with, I don't love that. So those are the things that come to mind off the top of my
Why
head.
do you think those things happen, though, for Trump? Because, he's not somebody who's, motivated by ideology in the way that sort of we
He
are.
likes money?
He likes money,
No.
yeah. But is it
He's mad.
Do you think he's a principled guy that has
Yeah.
a series of principles that he adheres to?
The principles are what is good for me.
All right, I got my answer. There you go.
Our
Yeah.
producer-
I really think that. And I think that
Yeah.
I said this when he was running, that I think, of course, Trump is a narcissist. So is Obama. You kind of have to be
You
to
have
run
to be
for
the
president.
Yeah, that's part
I
of the
think
job
that's-
description.
So maybe Trump has an extra dose of it. It could be, he's had
Mhm.
2 or 3 of the shots as opposed to just the one.
This is, I think, my fourth, by the way. If you're keeping track at home in our first video episode, number 4, I think.
So that's true. But I always believed about him that if you could align the country with his own ego, what is good for America
That's
makes Trump look and feel good,
Mhm.
we would win. We actually would get tired of all the winning.
And
I
he
think
probably
that's
would
happened.
work with anyone to get those things done.
Yeah.
Our producer's been gesticulating wildly at me, or at least he has been subtly
She has an appointment.
gesticulating wildly.
I've
So
gotta
I
get
know
the
you've
face
got to
full of
run.
poison.
Yeah. She has a botulism.
It's a bit of a
appointment.
tradition to
Literally.
on the exit say thank you while asking a last question.
Oh.
And the last question, this is easy.
French
but
goodbye.
I
Goodbye.
desperately
Goodbye.
want to know.
Yeah.
What do the next 5 years look like?
Oh.
Hopefully very much like the last 5.
Huh.
I don't want to do anything different.
Okay.
I love what I'm doing right now. When I was at Fox and I was a
Are you
correspondent.
going to divorce Doug anytime
Oh,
soon?
hell no. You,
All right, I
you
gotta-
wanna
I
know,
gotta-
you
I gotta
say
get
it.
out.
Bernard
This is-
Goldberg
this
had a
is-
piece
If you're
in
wondering
the
why,
media
yeah,
saying
I'm
that you're
sitting
going to
So
between
crazy.
these two.
Yeah.
It's because of him. Just want to be very clear.
Yeah, no.
So your future at CBS.
As if.
What the fuck was that?
He
You know
wrote-
him.
He wrote me an apologetic note.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was genuinely fooled by somebody giving him bad information. I was not at CBS.
Blonde lady
I
at
did not have a
CBS.
screen test.
Yes.
Like, what am I, like Tippi Hedren?
You're not going to do a screen
What
test.
is that?
She's never been on TV before. Let's see what she does. Fucking kidding me?
I know.
That was the tell. The screen test.
It was wrong, but I don't know why he went with it. But I'm not going to CBS. I wasn't at CBS. I didn't have a screen test. I would never go. No offense, but I'm so over that world. This is so much better. Look what we do now. We're
I know,
sitting
it's
here
fun.
drinking whiskey
It's
in the middle
so
of the
much
day,
fun.
just
Yeah.
with friends, talking about
It's
the
the middle
news.
of the day?
And
Sorry.
this
I'm gonna
is
put
so
that under
much
the
more
table.
enriching
Yeah.
than anything I ever did on
Yeah.
cable news, on broadcast, anywhere. And I worked for ABC first, then many years at Fox, then NBC. So I've been around.
But you started at ABC?
I did. The first
shit.
year in television was part-time at ABC News, working for a guy named Bill Lord down in Washington, D.C., WJLA. And that's how I got my start. I was still practicing law. Anyway, my point is I've never been happier. And while I was at Fox, I was a correspondent. I thought maybe I could be an anchor. And then I was co-hosting a show. I thought maybe I could co-host my own show, right? And then I co-hosting your own show in the middle of the day. You're like, maybe I could be in the primetime one day. Now, having done all that, I have no desire. I'm finally doing exactly what I want to be doing. I do not have some higher goal that I want to attain. I just want to keep doing this. And if I could keep doing this, raising my kids, being with my family a great amount of the day, I'll be perfectly happy.
Let's go.
Awesome.
MK, thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming all the way down here to visit us.
Thank you guys for helping make the
she
show so
she did have an
successful.
appointment,
Well,
by the way.
yeah, we did help.
That's why she's in
We did
town.
help. Thank you.
We booked the appointment after I accepted.
Is
the
that
invite.
true?
Yeah, we did.
Can we get some receipts on that? We'll put them on the screen just to make sure that that's
For the
true.
record.
Thank you. Moynihan's
you
going to
so
pick
much.
up the bill this time. So
You
it's
guys
fine.
I
are
will.
awesome.
I will.
It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. Good luck.
Bye.
Which was said with a slight intimidation. Good luck.
Yeah. No.
Good luck, you fucking losers.
Legs split.
We know of new methods of attack. The Trojan horse, the fifth